Hey guys, John coming at you with another Diablo 4 video. Now we are actually joined with my good friend Veiled Shot. Thank you so much for hopping on the channel today, Veiled. This I think is this our actual first collab from season start, I think.
Yeah,
I think
for maybe
so.
even Diablo 4. It's been a little
Yeah,
while.
it's been a little bit. So we're good friends. We get along really well. We like to enjoy the games. We have similar mindsets a little bit. And I've asked Vale to kind of come on the channel here because one, not only is he another content creator that I get along well with, but he also kind of represents a little bit more of a different type of community and player than I am myself. I represent more of the casual, I'm gonna make an empty bourbon at the moment and have fun and grind. Whereas Veiled, he's in it. He's playing it. He's grinding. You can see here he's 5 levels above me at level 91, and he really got into the season, did a lot of work, and he put in a lot more. I shouldn't say necessarily time, but a little bit more time as well as a little bit more effort. And I wanted to go ahead and leverage what I know, what we play as a casual versus kind of someone who has more of the in-depth knowledge and been playing a little bit more to see, is it worth it? Was it worth his time? Was it worth the effort? Do I feel like I missed out? So on and so forth. So that way, hopefully a lot of you guys out there could kind of relate a little bit, because I know a lot of people are at various stages in the game in the current state.
We're good.
You're good. All right, Veiled. So let's go ahead. Let's start off. Tell the people how many hours have you played the game?
Ooh, okay. So I have multiple hundreds on the Eternal Realm,
Okay.
and I've played a lot on the Eternal Realm. It's kind of like the testing realm for me. I spent a
Yep.
lot of time, even with the new season over there, testing out a bunch of random stuff to see if they randomly broke something.
Yep.
Um, But for this season in particular, like on the season one, not only am I rogue, but I also have a druid, and I also
Okay.
played a little bit of hardcore barb. So I split a little bit of time over there, probably closer to 150 hours total. I do spend a lot of that time not leveling up because I'm busy messing up my build and trying all the trash builds.
Yep.
And I actually actively, in some cases, like don't level up stuff to see what it's like for like the lower level players. So I kind of got a mix of everything there, but the focus is, trying to just mess around with the rogue. By far, I want to say
Yep.
like 80% of my time has been on the rogue. And
Okay.
overall, probably the like entire seasons and everything, I've probably spent like maybe 500-600 hours on the game since season start. So definitely not like the top 1%, but
Yeah.
maybe the top
But still,
1%. But like, I'm not the ultimate top 10 players in the world, but I've spent
right. But
definitely a hardcore amount of time into the game. So
yeah, so and that's why we brought Veiled on the channel, because notice that he pointed out that he didn't necessarily do a lot of grinding in the seasonal, but he played a lot of off season, did a lot of testing, which that's where the content creator comes into play. But also, I feel like, so I would be very curious at what my knowledge base versus your knowledge base now at Diablo 4 is, given that I only get to play maybe 2 hours a night, and I have another full-time job, so I'm not as dedicated to testing and seeing, hey, is this broken or not. I'd be very curious to see what the knowledge transfer is between us. But I could definitely say and tell, like you mentioned playing the druid, right? Like I'm still on my first build. I haven't gotten to play the druid at all this season, and honestly preseason I only got to play it for a very limited time. So you're already one up on me on classes in general. Do you feel like the amount of time you put in was worthwhile? Like, did it help you with playing all these classes and kind of testing stuff out, find your niche, so to speak? Or is it one of those situations where maybe you spend a little too much time in certain areas?
I'd say that for season one, there's been a lot of things that kind of not necessarily like insane improvements. I mean, we've all seen the patches. They're not like insane patches, right? They're very
Right.
like baseline. There's not a ton of new content. The key is a lot of the season one stuff just broke like builds and broke the game.
Yes.
So I'm sure many of you have seen a lot of the hearts out there. In particular, there have been a couple of them, and one, the barber, which a lot of people have been using, has and did break a ton of builds.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, like they didn't put these in the patch notes. So you'd have to figure it out. Like I stumbled upon this on accident playing the rogue. I noticed my things weren't working. And
Yeah.
then when they updated it even more recently, it turns out it's working now. So like these types of situations are
Yeah.
like super important to know because it's not just the rogue. It's not even just one build. It's literally every build for the
Everything.
rogue,
Yep.
every build for the druid with using these hearts. And so that's helped out a lot. I'll say that at a certain point, though, like beating tier 100 basically means nothing for most
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
Like it means some to like the hardcore community and for a personal achievement. For me, I have that goal to beat tier 100 on every class. Right, that's going to be the
Yeah.
goal and the long term goal. But I'm not rushing it. I'm not like doing. I did it in the Eternal realm, but not on the season one yet.
Yeah.
And mainly that's because I'm just testing out. Like I'm trying the builds. Like I'm actively trying
Yep.
it. Like I'm running. Okay, I'm gonna play Rapid Fire for 3 levels. I'm gonna play Twisting Blades for 3 levels. We're talking like 91 to
Yeah.
94 or whatever. So like tens of hours potentially, or 10 hours or so.
Right.
Um, and actually testing out all these different content. And that's where like, when I'm making build videos or when I'm making like lists on what my favorite builds are or tier lists for things like that, I think it does help just like I guess make it easier, like make
Yeah.
it so I don't actually have to do much research because I've already done it in my gameplay, right? I've already
Yeah, you've already
experienced it.
experienced it at that point, right? So it's one of those you can just play off of what you've already known, figured out, and kind of move it with it. And actually, so as we keep talking about it, I think more and more like in real time, it's probably better that you played a lot of these builds on the Eternal Realm because Malignants are a season one mechanic. There's a good chance, and I would almost speculate that this will not exist next season. That's typically how the ARPG scene works with the seasonal gameplay, where this mechanic will be this year's mechanic, and we may not see it again for 3, 4, 5 seasons, right? So it's probably actually more advantageous for you, especially as a content creator, to play more on the Internal Realm off season to get that experience and that feel, and then you can apply. Oh man, like Barber totally broke every build out there, especially like mine with the Necro, or how like the Vicious Heart totally broke the Necro. Like I don't have to proc 2 of my skills ever. All I got to do is walk around and they automatically proc, and then my Barber procs and destroys everything. So it's like it's probably more advantageous that you have played so much on the Eternal Realm versus the season, because you get to actually feel what the builds were intended to be, so to speak.
Yeah, so there's two parts to it. One is like there's a lot of resource dumping that
Yep.
goes into changing a build. So
Right.
part of the reason why I do it on the Eternal Realm is because I have so many resources over there
Right.
that I can waste essentially. And if I screw up, I'm not going to be screwed for like a couple of days. Like,
Yeah.
I could just hop onto a different character and farm up on a build that I know is good.
Right.
And as you're saying, I mean, essentially this season is like the season of the barber, which
Yeah.
is like it's defining all builds. And there are some other really good hearts, as you're mentioning, like playing a necro build with and without the auto corpse targeting and auto corpse exploding and auto corpse tendrils is
Yeah.
just night and day.
Right.
And so you first, or I tend to test on the Eternal Realm, check out a build, and then test it in the live game, see how it compares to like with
Yeah.
the hearts, without, which ones are actually benefiting the build, which ones are maybe even detracting from it, because that does happen sometimes. And of course, as we said earlier, sometimes it makes the build not work. Like it actively breaks the build, and it's just like, oh
Right.
well, that didn't
Well,
work,
well, that
and
didn't
that
pan
really
out.
sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so those are the main advantages. I mean, it's kind of like if you play more, you're just going to know more about the game,
Yep.
right? Like that tends to
Yeah.
be the case. And it does help out content. As for like a personal enjoyment aspect,
Yeah, that intrigues me the most. Like, how do you feel at a personal level with the amount of time and effort that you put in? Do you feel like excluding financials from YouTube and Twitch and whatever, do you feel like it was worthwhile so far?
yeah, I mean, I think it's worth to kind of continue to make content regularly. Like there are a lot of people out there
Hmm.
that do content from a very casual perspective. I mean, you're on the more casual yourself, you know, and
Yep.
that's a totally viable way to go, right? Because it's just a total different audience. Like most
Oh
people,
yeah.
in fact, are probably not even close to level 86 right now. Like they're like below level
Right. Yeah.
50 around that
I think
point.
statistically right now, like the average is around 55 or 56, if I remember correctly. So
And there's a big jump from 56 to like 86
yeah.
as you are, or even 86 to 91. Like
Oh, for sure.
it, it's a lot of time. And so
Yeah.
from that aspect, I don't mind it at all because, well, I do end up kind of transitioning into that kind of content. That's the kind
Yep.
of content that I enjoy doing. I like to kind of know the game. I will say though, like as many of people have stated, Diablo 4, unless you're like a hardcore Diablo game enjoyer, which I'm not, you know, I didn't play a ton of Diablo 3. I barely played Diablo 2.
Yeah.
Um, I know the stories and I've played the games, right? But repeating the same things over and over again, and with season one, it being basically the same things as we experienced in the Eternal Realm,
Yep.
it's not like an exciting thing. Like I don't know if anyone can sit there and say like, yeah, I'm on like hour 300 or hour 150, and I'm charging the same dungeon and I'm enjoying it. The most fun for me is not playing on a level 80 character and jumping onto a new character and testing
Yeah.
out builds. That's actually fun. But playing on the rogue here and grinding out 91, 92, 93, or whatever it is, it's not terrible. It's just not like exciting, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. It has a little bit of dopamine, but it's not like that super like keep you really like, oh, I got it. This is the only thing I'm gonna do type feeling, right? But it's enjoyable as you progress and you move forward. So
Yeah. And changing builds does excite me a little bit. I love actually messing around. The problem in this game though is if you're not running with the right build, sometimes it can really suck.
I 100% agree with that statement. Actually, so I have the easiest build. I have the Necro. I have the Bone Spear Necro. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the easiest build that they've had this league, from my perspective, anyways. Where it's one button. That's all I have to press ever and dodge. And yet somehow,
Bone Spear is great, right?
yep. But yet somehow, by not having the right malignant and HP, I struggled. Like it was hard. Like it was just like you said, if you don't have the right build and you want to keep pushing forward, or you think you're close to the right build, but you don't know, you don't have that knowledge. Sometimes, man, what you think you're doing as the meta build is actually harder than what it should be. And I think I can attest to that myself. As you can see on my character, I've got 6K life, or 6,500 life. I was rocking about 4,200 up until about 3 or 4 days ago.
Wow.
So
Yeah. I
that
mean,
was a little rough to do tier 50 on.
yeah, that's pretty tough. I mean, I'm at a point where I have good enough gear to where like I can pretty much roll in with any build and do a tier
Yep.
50, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And you know, the specialized builds, if anyone's seen a high tier nightmare dungeon, it's not like you run in and farm it. It's like you're kiting, you're making sure that you're taking on like 3 monsters at a time, you're teleporting back, you're healing up. So I could do that tier 80s or so. I've
Yeah.
done that, but it's not like exciting. It's not fun and it's not efficient to run at all. Like what people should be doing is farming tier 50s, like or 60s. And with the recent changes, you only need to go 10 levels above, and that's the maximum
Yeah, that's
cap
the
for
max
everything.
cap, anyways. Exactly. So
So
it's not advantageous to go like shoot yourself in the foot by doing like a level 80, level 90 tier, because
yeah.
why? Like you're not getting any extra benefit out of it, right? So
Yeah, and as you're saying, I mean, survivability, honestly, like it's not fun to run. Like it's pushing for the first time.
yeah.
That's fun. You know, it could be
Oh
fun to
yeah,
accomplish
for
it,
sure. Yeah.
but it's not fun to die. It's not fun to like play super slow. At least I don't find that fun. And most of
No,
the community I think
100%.
agrees because
Yeah.
we want higher density. We want to kill things. We want to move on to the next pack, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, it's just not ever been like that appealing thing, and mainly due to the survivability aspect. So if your life is a little too low, you got not enough armor, maybe you're missing some damage reduction stats, like it's gonna be
It's
miserable
rough. Yep.
later on. So part of the reason why I don't change my build that often, you know.
No, and that's totally understandable. That was actually one of those where it's been a little rough for me moving forward because I am a casual versus, I don't get to play that many hours as I would like to. And I'm running with friends who are, they're wanting to help me out, but they're 10, 15 levels above me. So what does that mean? That means I'm the guy constantly on the floor. Like my running joke this season has been I'm the floor tank. Like they can't start the dungeon because they need the floor tank to come in. For those of you who know, that's like an MMO joke, right? So MMO ARPG, funny, haha.
Yes,
But
yes,
and I
yes.
know you
You're
know all about
carpet.
the I know you know all about those MMOs, right? So
Absolutely. No, I mean, Necros pump out damage, but that's one thing that, you got to play back. You got to kind of shoot your bone spear, let it stick. And
yeah,
it can be tricky alone because, you'll get hit by a wasp and it'll
and then
just
you're
kill
dead.
you, or
Yep.
a random bow hit. Like I experience that sometimes as well because, I mean, Source Rogue and Necro all are relatively squishy.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting the gear. So, I don't get one shot all that often anymore. But, if I jump into a tier 65 or 70, I will get one shot. Like there's nothing
Yep.
I can do about it. So,
Yeah. Especially those ballistas that seem to be able to always kill you off screen. That's I
yeah, the
think
those are,
if I had to guess or put it into perspective, I would say about 75% of my deaths are from environment and off-screen kills. Like 100%.
yeah, that's probably like 90% of mine. It's the corpse bows,
Yep.
the laser beams, the rail guns,
Okay.
and the death explosions. Any on death explosion always gets me.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I just destroy all of it. Immediately salvage those sigils. Like, nope, it's not even to stay in the inventory. We're not even going to look at it. It's got death pulse. It's got blood blisters on it. It's got something stupid where they're going to blow up when they die. Nope, we're not doing it.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
it's miserably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some annoying things, but yeah. I mean, overall, I mean, this is kind of what we got for season one,
Yep.
and I've been trying. Like, I tend to steer on. Okay, let's see the positives of whatever I'm playing. I mean, who wants to log in every day and be negative about a game? It's usually not like entertain. It's not fun for
Yep.
me. It's not fun for anyone else. And unfortunately, that's kind of where Diablo 4 has been these days. Is it's kind of just statistically speaking, like the player base has dropped off. It's kind of
Yep.
like the result of a new season. I'm sure we've all seen that. People are not super excited to jump into the game, and so here we are in that limbo to where hopefully we're going to see some amazing stuff for season two. That's
Yep.
the hope, right?
Oh yeah.
I think that most people are viewing these early seasons as more of like a beta, and we're going to get the full game season three, season four. And I hope
Yeah.
that's true
Oh yeah.
because I actually do enjoy the core gameplay. Like, I think it's actually a pretty solid game overall. So,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I like the mechanics. I like how the builds feel. I like how the gameplay feels. In my opinion, that we're just lacking a little bit of extra content or in-game content type deal, right? Like I need that a little bit more of that gold dopamine stuff to want me to stay more engaged. But I definitely agree. I think by season 3, season 4, this will be a totally different game. I mean, look at Diablo 3. They've done this once before where they launched a game, they made a crap ton of money. It was perceived as an L, and then they completely revamped the game, right? Now it's season 29 basically of D3. They're doing Paragon caps and a bunch of other like amazing updates. So it's only to be like serve as like an example of eventually they'll get there. Eventually they will make it. It doesn't matter if you're a casual gamer. It doesn't matter if you're a hardcore, you're playing a crap ton of hours gamer. Eventually D4 will be the game where you're like, hey, this is fun. Unfortunately, I just I don't see it happening until season 3, season 4, where they really have that solid solidify. Like, yes, this is the staple for Diablo.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of where everyone's at this point and where
Yeah.
I'm at. I'm definitely going to be continuing to play. My plan is since I've gotten through all my testing phases. I have figured out the build I want to play, and
Nice.
I am going to be pushing to 100 with that and moving on to the Druid and hopefully getting that one to 100. And I think the next one will probably be Barbarian. I've just been enjoying all
Okay.
those
All right.
classes. I think that's legitimately my favorite part about this game is the 1 to 70 process. I'm actually excited to
Mhm.
do that again with these other classes. Whereas, once you hit like 80, you kind of
It's
beat the
kind of
game, I
it kind
think.
of falls off a little bit. Yeah, yeah, I hear that. So, well, awesome, man. Thank you for hopping on the channel. I appreciate it. It was a good discussion, a good conversation. Hopefully, you guys watched this video and enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you go follow my boy Veiled Shot. I'll have links to his channels down below. If you don't already know who he is, you've probably been living under a rock. But yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate the time.
Yeah. See you later, everyone.
Peace.